Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Expectations Podcast. I'm here with the owner and co-founder of Zippy Paws, Jen Glaser. So I appreciate her being on and taking time out of her busy day to be able to jump on the podcast and dive into a little bit more about how Zippy Paws was built, kind of what they're up to now, and a little bit more about Jen and what she's up to as well. So thanks so much for being on, Jen.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. It's my first time as a guest on another podcast, so I'm very
Yeah.
excited to be here.
Dope. Yeah, I mean, I saw your other podcast too, so that's super cool. We'll dive into a little bit of that. Uh, First and foremost, how are you kind of holding up with everything kind of going on with quarantine and all the craziness going on in the world? How's everything going for you and your company and your family and friends? How's everything holding up over there?
I think as positive as we can. I think in the beginning it was a little bit hard because we were unsure of how we were going to transition into work from home.
Mhm.
But we started work from home on March 12th, so almost a week before the state quarantine stay at home.
Mhm.
So we've started early, and now we've gotten into the groove. Like the team is doing great at home. All of our employees are working from home except for the warehouse.
Mhm.
And for the warehouse, we have set kind of like dual schedules for them to come in on every other day, so that if someone gets sick, the whole warehouse doesn't have to shut down. So we've already implemented all those strategies, and we've actually had June was our second highest grossing month that
Mhm.
in our company history.
Wow.
So it just shows you that like we've done a lot of steps to like get ahead of this pandemic, basically.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I think in the beginning was definitely very difficult, but we've done well, and my dogs are definitely loving us staying at home every
For
single
sure.
day. So
Dope.
yeah, we're holding up.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. It's good to hear. So I always like to start a podcast off with this question, which is like, tell us a little bit about your childhood, kind of like who was Jen Glazer like as a kid, and kind of um, give us a little bit more details about that.
Yeah, so obviously I wasn't born Jen Glaser. I was born Jen Tao.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Chinese, and I was born here in the United States at in Monterey Park, actually.
Mm,
And when I was 3 months old, my parents took me back to China to live with my grandparents for a while because they had business in like the Middle East. So they traveled back and forth, and I was mostly brought up by my grandparents.
okay.
Um, and and then when I was 6 or 7, they brought me back to the U.S. because they started a company in the U.S.
Mm,
So it was time for us to, be a family unit together. So I
gotcha.
came here, loved it. They took me to Disneyland for my first day. So I was like,
Really?
yes, U.S. is what it's all about here.
Cool.
And went to Arcadia High School, and graduated from USC, University of Southern California. So I think I had like a typical Asian household. I would say my parents were strict. No friends sleep over or anything like
Yeah.
that. So the typical Asian household, I
Yep.
would say. Yeah, I had to play piano, which I hated.
Yep.
But I had to finish all the from level 10, right? Like,
Yep.
even though I hated it, I tried to be as good as I could so I could get through it faster.
Gotcha. Yeah, for sure. I think there's a
Mhm.
lot of there's a lot of stories like that where we get set up to do stuff that we don't really like, but like you said, we kind of just work hard at it just because we'll get through it faster and quicker. And
Right.
also,
And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So super cool. Talk a little bit about your parents' business and your experience with that as a kid, because
Mhm.
yeah, kind of give us some background there. I did some digging there, but give the audience some background about your parents and the business that they were in, and kind of your view on that as a kid.
Yeah. So growing up, my parents worked in import export, just in the trade business.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they met, actually.
Mm,
And they went to the Middle East because that's where their company sent them.
mm-hmm.
And after my parents left that, they started their own import and export trading company. And they started doing that with a customer who was doing dog toys at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
this was maybe like 1995, 96, something like that. So I was like 5, 6 years old. And I grew up kind of with that business. After school, my parents would take me to their office. And, in my free time when I was like 8 or 9, I would have to like, I remember this like one instance where their customers' dog toys were tagged incorrectly. So I had to help them like cut off the old tag and then tag the new tag. And there were like thousands and thousands of boxes. So that took like all my free time during summer break, one of those years.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, I was like very kind of involved in the process too. Like I always heard about like, I did my homework while my parents, were at the other desk doing their business. So I kind of like heard what they were discussing. I didn't really understand it too much, but I was always kind of like just there and listening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think that kind of played into what that kind of helped frame like what you wanted to do growing up?
I think unconsciously it did. Even when I was graduating college, I didn't know what I was going to do. Like I majored in business, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
I was very into art, so I wanted to do like something that incorporated that or be a photographer. But I was like, even I knew that like I couldn't just come out of university and just hit the ground running with that. Like it needed some experience.
Yep.
So I didn't really have a good direction, I would say, or a clear image of what I wanted to do in life. But I think just growing up and being around all of that, I knew that I could start my own business if I wanted to.
Gotcha.
I just didn't know with what.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Gotcha. So talk a little bit about, let's kind of backtrack here. So talk a little bit about, I mean, obviously your parents were in business. What kind of expectations did they have for you growing up? Were they the typical doctor, lawyer, typical Asian parents, or did they kind of like let you do your own thing?
They were not the typical doctor, lawyer type.
Yep.
They actually didn't really push me at all to do the usuals, doctor or lawyer.
Yep.
And I was not interested anyway.
Yeah.
So I like, if there's any blood, I look away. So my parents knew like that was not for me.
Yeah.
And growing up, I was very shy and I don't like confrontation or anything like that. So they knew that lawyer was not for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I dashed their hopes and dreams probably very early on. So they never really pushed me towards anything in general. I think my dad for sure wanted me to go into business.
Gotcha.
But he never really like pushed me super hard or anything. And he never said, when you grow up, you have to be this or that. It was never like that. So I was luckier than some.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. That's super awesome. So then fast forwarding to college, you go to USC, and then you graduate with a degree in business, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then did you take any jobs after that, or did you just go into business right away? Like,
nope, I didn't take any jobs. So I always joke that I have no prior work experience. Of course, I had like part-time jobs, and I worked in the USC Marshall Business School as like a student worker too, and I helped my professors with research projects. And then I also took an internship with a political company. So I mean, I had like some work experience, but it wasn't like full-time or anything like that. So I graduated college a year earlier than my peers. So and then my parents were going through like a tough time in their relationship with their client. So their client kind of ended relationships. It was mutual, you know, so it was just time. And so my dad was concerned that he was going to retire because no one was taking over his business. He asked me if I wanted to take over his business, and I said I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I didn't want to work in, import export. Like that doesn't do it for me, I guess. It doesn't excite me. So then I just started to think about if I could create my own brand and my own company. So that would take the pressure off of him, so he can still pay his employees in China and keep our relationships with our factories. So that's pretty much how I started. And I just dove right in like the month that I graduated college. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so you dove right in, and what was the idea? What kind of sparked the idea with the Zippy Paws?
Yeah. So I think I had a dog at the time, JJ, my golden retriever, and growing up, I didn't really like the toys that my dad's client had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are all the toys that we got because they were free, right? I
Yep.
mean, my parents were they weren't gonna like let me spend money
Yeah.
on, frivolous things like dog toys.
Yep.
So that's all we got, and I just didn't really like it too much. And I took art classes for my entire life, ever since I was like 3 or something. And I just thought with my like art and design background, I could create products that were more appealing to my generation, the modern dog parent. It wasn't the dog toys back then were kind of like brown and blah, and they weren't made with the best materials.
Mm-hmm.
So like the fluff would come out, and it wasn't very durable.
Yeah.
So I just thought I could put my own spin on it. Being young and naive, you
Yep.
think like you can do something better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how I started. And my thinking back then was, if I spend a year and I fail, like I'll still end up at the same spot as my peers because they would be just graduating
Gotcha. Yep.
college. So that kind of helped me to like be less scared at that
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how correct that thinking was, but that really helped me to be like, okay, like I can really do this. I got a
Yeah.
year.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. Cool. And how did that first year go?
It went
Yeah.
as well as like it could be. I you know, lived at home with my parents, which was obviously difficult after coming back from
Yep.
college and living with
Yep.
your friends. Uh,
For sure.
and so we packed kind of like my parents' garage and their dining room full of products, and I had my little space in the dining room where I did all my work. So it was definitely like a transition. And work-wise, I did a couple of like small shows,
Mm-hmm.
like America's Family Pet Expo. So I went there and had a little booth, and I would bring my products and just like talk with everybody. And it was pretty well received. So it gave me a little bit of confidence that people actually like my product.
Yeah.
So it just snowballed from there, basically. Yeah.
Cool. Um, and then talk a little bit about like your first couple products. Like what were they?
Mhm.
What do they look like? Things like that.
Uh, I still have some of those. Those are still selling,
Yeah.
but I had like a little hedgehog in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a multicolored caterpillar.
Yep.
That's still a bestseller today.
Nice.
But most of them we discontinued because I like to come out with a lot of products
Yeah.
every year. So yeah, they were just very colorful, and I like to put these kind of cartoonish faces on them so people would be gravitated towards them. It wasn't anything that was like boring or anything. It definitely
Gotcha.
had a little bit of character so people could really um, relate to them, I guess. So they always said, "Oh, my dog loves your so and so. It's his best friend. Like they go
Mm-hmm.
everywhere together."
Yeah.
So they kind of personify the toys a
Yeah.
little bit more. Yeah.
It's like a kid's teddy bear kind of for a dog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, some of them they shred like immediately, but
Yeah.
sometimes you get lucky and they love like a certain product of yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. What so to give some context to the audience, what year did you start Zippy Paws?
It was 2011, so
Okay.
9 years ago. Yeah.
Gotcha. And did you go like straight to e-commerce at the time, or were you kind of just like local first and then kind of figure out e-commerce? What was the journey there?
Yeah, I went straight to e-commerce actually. So
Okay.
I think my first sale was on eBay or Amazon. I can't really remember.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was waiting for the product to come, I took photos of everything and then I listed them on eBay, on Amazon, and that really helped my sales. Like that, I mean, I have mixed feelings about Amazon now, but
Yeah.
I attribute them to my early success. Like if I didn't have Amazon, we probably wouldn't be here today.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and we did some, in person, but that was the sales from that were just very little.
Mm-hmm.
And but I usually just use that opportunity to talk to my clients like face to face and like reach new people, and then just kind of get an opinion on my products and like what they liked and what they didn't like. It was
Yeah.
nice to talk to people regarding that in person.
Gotcha. And how did you kind of know to go to e-commerce right away in 2011? Because I mean, it was kind of there, but it wasn't as big as it is today, of course. So what kind of sparked that?
I just thought that it was a really good opportunity for us. And personally, I love to buy everything on Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying
For
to
sure.
like cut back now, but
Yeah.
uh, Amazon's so easy, so convenient, and uh, I guess it was me. For me, I didn't really think about it. It was a pretty much no-brainer. And at that time, I had a little bit less competition
Yeah.
on e-commerce on Amazon and Chewy. You know, now they're making their own dog products like the poop bags. Amazon makes their own
Yeah.
crates. They all make their own brand, but luckily they don't have dog toys yet,
Yeah.
so it's still a little bit safe for a few
Yeah.
years maybe. Uh, but it was just kind of a no-brainer for me, and um, you can really build your own like reviews there. So I never really paid for any reviews or anything, but when you have like a good product, people will start writing reviews for you,
Mm-hmm.
and that in itself is just going to snowball, and you're going to get a lot more sales the more reviews you get. So yeah, it was really good for us.
Cool. So awesome. And then obviously your dad is the president of your company. How is it
Hmm.
like working with him? Talk a little bit about that relationship, and then talk a
Yeah,
little bit about the pros and cons of that as well.
yeah, of course. So my dad and I have a great relationship. We're very close, and we can talk about anything. So that really helped. Living at home wasn't the best in the beginning, but about like 3 years after I started the company, I moved out. So, you know, my mom and I won't kill each other every single
Yeah,
day.
for
So
sure.
that really helped. And then once we got an office and we had employees, my dad didn't come into the office very much. Like
Mm.
even now, well, of course, before stay at home, he would come to office about one time a week, maybe
Yep.
for a half day. So
Yep.
he kind of let me run my own team. So, you know, I'm really thankful that he trusted me
Mm-hmm.
and believed in me. So I was able to really kind of grow the team myself.
Yep.
And he definitely deals with kind of the manufacturing side, negotiating with the factories on pricing, making sure that the containers are coming and they're scheduled and everything. So he mainly handles that. And
Gotcha.
I handle, you know, my background was in marketing, so I love marketing and um, design. So I oversee all that, and I
Mm-hmm.
have other people to oversee sales and operations, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and how easy was it to work with him? I think it's pretty easy. There are some days where he gets on my nerves because he wants me to do this or that, but I don't think it's right from the company.
Yep.
And then I just kind of weigh what I really feel. Like if I really feel that's a bad idea, I'll tell him no,
Mm-hmm.
and he like respects that. Um, but you know, sometimes I'm just like, you know, he wants this.
Yeah.
I'll just let him have it. It's not a big deal. Like,
Yep.
yeah. But
Gotcha.
overall, it's been good.
Yeah. So overall positive, which is great. Which is great that you guys had that
Yeah.
relationship there.
Yeah, and I think it's better than well, obviously I don't have this experience, but having a partner who is not related to you,
Mm-hmm.
because I know at the end of the day, like my dad and I are still gonna have this relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I'm going to have um you know, butt heads with him in the
Yep.
business. Like it's just not worth it. And you know, when you make a relationship where you don't butt heads in the workplace, like it'll just make everything smooth.
For sure.
Just you know, explain why you're making these decisions, and you just gotta trust the other person,
Yep.
right, to make decisions in their own field.
100%.
Yeah.
Cool. So then you and your dad create this. You and your dad have a great relationship. Talk about the steps that you took to scale Zippy Paws, and obviously this is your first venture at the time. So talk a little bit about what steps you took to kind of just educate yourself a little bit, and also like what you did to kind of get better at the process of scaling your company.
Great. Yeah, scaling is actually where I have trouble all the time. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
the hardest thing about owning a business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily kind of like the start, because in the start, you definitely have a push of momentum to
Yep.
get you out there and to get your products out there and to market your products. Like that's uh, relatively easy, I would say. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, there are issues with, money and all that stuff. But I think in the grand scheme of things, that was relatively smooth. The hardest part is to kind of like find the right people in each step of your company and know where to really use your resources, right? Like, should you put money right now to upgrade your warehouse, or should you put your money into digital marketing
Mm-hmm.
or product development or things like that? So that's something that we really had to evaluate at the time. And so in the beginning, it was just like a one person where I was doing everything from like taking photos of the product to listing them online and doing any kind of marketing. So that was all me. And then my dad just helped me with manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
So then as we grew a little bit bigger, I knew I had to find somebody else to help me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my steps in expanding my team was where what am I missing? Like, what am I bad at
Yep.
that I need someone with more experience to help me in? And that was sales.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was sales and operations. And we hired someone actually from my dad's the company that my dad used to work with.
Yep.
Um, we hired a guy from there because he left, and then he asked us for a job, and we were like, perfect, come on
Yep.
over.
Yep.
So he helped me set up kind of like the wholesale customer process,
Mm-hmm.
and he did a little bit of sales, and he helped us with accounting. And those are all areas that I am lacking, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
not a good accountant, that those are like worst subjects in
Yep.
school.
Yep.
So definitely helped to have him with this other set of skills while I could focus on marketing and design and website and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just even today, like, this is still how we operate, is like, who can we hire that has really good expertise in something that we're not good at?
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, everything just kind of came together when it needed to.
Yeah, we just took it step by step,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
And we were very conservative in kind of like hiring and spending money.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of took some risks with like uh, purchasing a lot of products, so that's where we took the risks.
Mm-hmm.
But we were very conservative in hiring, and hiring. I think is the hardest. Like, staffing your team is the hardest, and I've had a lot of issues with that. So that's still something that I'm trying to get better at.
Mm-hmm.
But finding like the perfect people for a team is the key to making your business grow.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And how big is your team now today?
Our team is 25 people. 8 of them are in the warehouse,
Yep.
and I'm like, how many is left? 17 of them are in sales,
Yep.
marketing, operations, executive team. Yeah.
Cool. And do you still do product design today? Or do you,
Yeah, I
yeah,
do.
dope. That's
Hmm.
super cool. Super cool. Um,
Yeah, up until like 2 months ago, I was the only person doing product design, but I
mhm.
just hired a girl to help me with product design, and we work together.
Yeah.
But she's better at drawing, so
Mhm.
she can do them a lot faster than I can,
Yeah.
which is like really helpful for me because
Hmm.
it was kind of like the bottleneck for our company was product design, and
Hmm.
now that I have her, it's going a lot more smoothly. So I'm happy about
Gotcha.
that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about like today, where are you kind of finding like inspiration and motivation from every day? Because I know it can kind of be tough with, not being able to be around your team. Maybe, quarantine helps you out a little bit. I know for me, I'm kind of like a little bit of an introvert. So quarantine was cool for a little bit until, it lasted 3-4 months.
Yeah,
But talk a
exactly.
little bit about like where you're finding inspiration and motivation from during a time like this.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that it has been a little bit difficult. But I think what motivates our team is that it's like that team spirit, right? Like when everyone's positive, motivated, like it just helps to kind of like um, get everyone's spirits up.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely have a few people on the team who are, very positive, and I love them because it just makes the whole atmosphere better, and you want to be better, right, for your team.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we do Zoom calls, every week for different purposes, and then we have sometimes happy hours just to relax and hang out with our team like we would do in the office. Like we
Yeah.
would chit chat about different things.
So
So
you guys do
we
happy hour
definitely
on Zoom?
yeah.
Oh,
Once a month with the whole company, and then
yeah.
every week with our smaller teams, we kind of
Yep.
have like a little chit chat session.
Yep.
It just um, it shows your team that you still care about their mental health, mental well-being, and all that. So
Yeah.
we definitely like to do that. And with the inspiration for myself, really, um, I just naturally I'm a person who really likes to be really good at something.
Mm-hmm.
So I constantly want to like improve myself, improve my company, and things like that. So
Yeah.
next year we're coming up on 10 years. So we're doing like a whole rebrand with new marketing materials and designs and things like that. So that's
Awesome.
really kind of
Yeah.
kept me going.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure you're busy with all of that. Um, what is, I guess, like we're kind of in the and like later half of the year. What is the landscape of your business kind of looking like leading up to this half of the year? What's the landscape look like? Has business kind of taken an uptick because of the pandemic? I know e-commerce sales are doing pretty well. How's everything looking for you guys business wise?
Yeah, I think it's looking very, very positive for us. Luckily, we are in an industry that is relatively recession proof.
Yeah.
I know that's not the case for every industry,
Hmm.
but with the recession a few years ago, and also kind of uh, what we're dealing with now, people are spending more time with their dogs at home.
Hmm.
So that's just been a positive for us. Maybe some of their spending power is limited, but I think a majority of our customers still have that spending power.
Yep.
And the only difference is that they are working from home as opposed to working in the office. So I think they're spending a little more quality time with their pets.
For sure.
And that's just only positive for us.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the pandemic, I think a lot of our big customers who had retail stores, they
Yeah.
stopped purchasing from us. So that was a very, very scary time because we do still rely on multi-unit store chains and big
Hmm.
box stores, and they it was kind of shaky for them.
Yep.
Um, it's still a little bit shaky now. I think last in June they started reopening, so they ordered a lot more for us, but a lot of the states are rolling back reopening. So
Yep.
I'm not sure how it looks in that landscape, but the e-commerce side has really kind of just like taken off.
Yeah.
Chewy, Amazon, and a bunch of our other other customers who are also selling online,
Mm.
they're doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Well, it's good. It's good that side of the business is kind of booming. I know like a lot of clients that I work with that weren't online, they had to get online. So
Yeah.
super important. I think that this is kind of accelerating that process for businesses that kind of against being online. So um
Yeah, for sure.
talk a little bit about, I mean, you guys have your own podcast. You said this is your first time on someone else's podcast, which
Hmm.
is great. Talk a little bit about the process or the thought process behind creating your own podcast.
Yeah, so the it's called Dog Mom Podcast, and it was kind of like my side project, like
Yeah.
my little baby on the side, because
Yeah.
definitely I'll have to focus on my company for first and foremost. But I just thought it would be a good platform for us to talk about the struggles and like the joys of owning a dog right now. And it's called Dog Mom, but we also say dog dads are welcome.
Yeah.
So Uh, so we just talk about like kind of like the issues surrounding dog ownership now, and kind of let people know about different things that may arise when they have a dog, whether they have a dog now or they're thinking of getting a dog.
Hmm.
Um, And I think it's just a great resource for people, and for people to know that 20 something 30 something year old dog moms, like, we've been there too, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
all the issues that you're experiencing, we've probably been there, so we can offer a little bit of insight into how to handle those situations, or uh, just because we've been around dogs a lot. We have dogs in the office every day, and we're
Yep.
always in the industry, so we have a little bit more knowledge about dogs in general. So I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to, like, share that knowledge and have a platform to speak.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Super cool stuff. If you have not checked out Dogma Podcast, make sure to do so. They can find you on everywhere, or
Everywhere. Yeah.
yeah, okay,
Apple, Spotify. Yeah.
all the big players. Cool,
Yeah.
cool. Another question I like to ask all the time is, what's kind of like the best thing about being an entrepreneur, and one of the worst things?
Yeah. I think we'll start with the worst thing. I
Okay.
think the worst thing is uh, kind of like the stress involved
Mm,
with running a company, especially when you have a lot of employees. I'm always worried about if our company doesn't reach its goals, like its sales goals, then this is kind of like a worst case scenario, but like, I had to lay people off. Like, my employees can't provide for their families. Like, that really keeps me up at night sometimes.
yeah.
It's just the stress of providing a stable place to work for them,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So that's definitely what I stressed about in the beginning too, when we had less sales and less employees. It was definitely very shaky at times.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely, like, I don't enjoy that. Like, I want us to be profitable and successful, and then my employees can support their families and be happy. So that that's kind of like the downside of owning a business, is
Yep.
because you're kind of technically responsible for all these people.
For sure.
And the best part, I think, is I think there are two really good things. One is being able to make your own schedule. I love not really listening to anybody.
Yeah.
I do have to listen to my dad sometimes, but he's my dad.
Yeah.
We're close. I don't have. It's not as very strict and like very very professional environment where I had to be very buttoned up, which I have been for my other previous jobs. Like, you have to dress up every day, and it's a very much a hierarchy. And I think with my company, I could structure it however I want it,
Mm-hmm.
and we're very lean, and we work very fast. And I just built the team around me who, like, really believe in me and also have the same work styles as me. So it's like a very positive work environment for me,
Mm-hmm.
where I don't have to cater to a lot of different styles of working. They all understand me, and they get me, and we get things done, like, super quick.
Yeah.
So that's a positive. And another thing is just meeting people who use your product and they love it, like, it's changed your life in some way. Um, like, I love hearing those stories. So those
Mm-hmm.
stories really, like, it really motivate me, and kind of like reinforces why we do what we do.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So I like to end the podcast with this question: is, if someone wants to create the next Zippy Paws, or wants to be the next Jen Glaser, what would you tell them?
That is a hard question, because I think everyone has their own strengths.
For sure.
So I'm not necessarily sure what my strength would be. So um, I guess my advice would be, like, figure out um, what you want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then figure out what you're good at, and see if there's, like, an overlap, like a Venn diagram, where in the middle, this is like your sweet spot. Because you can be as positive as you want, but if you're not good at something, like if you're not good at sales, you can pretend and be successful, but in the end, you won't be happy. Like, it's not a sustainable area for you to grow in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of people who are just coming out of college, like, they definitely need to explore a lot of different options, right? Get a corporate job, do some hobbies on the side, talk to your friends about what they're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of feel out a lot of like the different industries, and dip your toes into like the industries that you think you want to be in.
Yep.
And then do kind of like those hobbies on the side. Like I really wanted to do photography. So I did a lot of like side gigs on the side. I did headshots for people,
Mm-hmm.
and I took pictures of people's dogs and things like that. I mean, I love it, of course, but then I had Zippy Paws, so but if I didn't, maybe I would kind of be in that industry. Maybe I will like try to be a second shooter for a wedding photographer and see how I like that.
Yeah.
And it's definitely just, if you're scared about creating your own business, just help other people with their business in that industry and see if you're up for that and if you're good
Yeah.
at it, right? Because sometimes
100%.
you might think, like, I want to be a cook,
Yeah.
and you're great at cooking at home, but then in the restaurant atmosphere, like, it just drains you.
Yep.
And you don't want to be in an industry or in a job where it drains you. You want to
Yep.
be lifted, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like introvert extrovert, where introverts, like, we get drained if we're in like a huge party session where
Yeah.
like you have
Yep.
to socialize with a lot of people.
Yep.
So some industry like that will probably not be the best for you long term.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice is to really understand who you are, and that also takes time to mature too, right? When we're like 20, 19, we might think we want to do this, but we just don't grow into that person.
100%.
So it's just like letting yourself mature and like get a lot of experience, and then you can be super confident when you do start a company in the industry that you want to be in. You know that that's for you.
Yep.
So yeah, then with that confidence, then you can just like do a lot better.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I agree with everything you just said. I think, trying new things and getting a taste of stuff is going to be very important. So, yeah, I love everything you said there. Well, cool. Thanks so much for coming on. I love you guys' stories with everything you guys have built. Wish many successes to you guys, especially with everything going on. I'm glad you guys are doing great. And we'll link up if you ever come to. I'm out of Minnesota, so if you ever come out to Minnesota, let me know and I can show you guys around or something like that.
Yeah, I was just out there last year.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah, I was in Minneapolis. I had a meeting with Target and I didn't know
Oh,
anybody.
yeah.
So I went there a day early and I just like went everywhere. It was
Yeah.
snowing. So
Yep.
yeah, I'd like to definitely hit you up if I'm in Minnesota.
For sure. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks so much for being on. And that's the end of this podcast. Later, guys.